somebody wants to know, what is the timeline of the foster care process? It's a little bit tricky to answer because it kind of depends on the child's legal case, which totally depends on what their birth parents are doing in response to what the legal case is. But basically what happens is when a child enters foster care through no fault of their own, but for whatever reason their parents are not able to take care of them or be safe for them, then they start a timeline, and it kind of depends on the age of the child. If the child is under 3 years old, then the parents get 6 months to make the changes that the state says they need to make in order to be a safe place for their child. And if the child is over 3 years old, they get 12 months. So during that time, the social worker is working with them to try to help them to make those changes in order to be safe for their children to come back to them. And if they're making good progress and they're doing their case plan is what it's called, then the child will be reunified. And the way that this kind of works is they are given visiting hours during the week, and those will increase as they are doing what they've been asked to do. And that totally depends on like county and the judges and in terms of how many hours they get and all that stuff. But anyway, so it increases and it goes from like super supervised to more with more freedom as they transition back to reunification. And if they're not making progress with their case plan, then what happens is the court system terminates their services, is what it's called. So they're no longer getting state help to make those changes that the court asks them to make. And then after a period of time, usually at least 4 months goes by between terminating their services, then the courts will terminate their parental rights, which basically says they're no longer the legal parent of their child. Once they terminate the parental rights, then that child is considered freed for adoption. And then at that point, if the child is already in a foster home that's interested in adopting them, that couple or that family or that person gets priority to say, yes, we want to adopt this child. They always try to place with the family member if possible. So once the parents' rights are terminated, they will have already been looking at family members, but at that point they would move them to be with a family member if that's a possibility. And if not, then they're going to ask the foster family that currently has them if they're interested in adopting. If that family is not interested or able to adopt the child, then they'll open it up and be looking at other people who have said they want to adopt a child. Then they're going to say, we've got this kid, they're already freed for adoption, are you interested? So when you come into fostering as a foster parent, you can decide if you only want to take children who are like at the beginning of their journey in the foster care system, or if you only want to adopt, you can say, I'm only interested in taking kids that are already freed for adoption. If you are only interested in taking a child that's already freed for adoption, you've got to remember that they've already been through a lot of homes up until the point they come to you. And so you could potentially be looking at more attachment trouble and more difficulty because of their having been in so many places, getting to the place where somebody is like, yes, we're willing to adopt this child. Another thing to keep in mind is that the court system really prioritizes keeping siblings together. It's really helpful for the children usually to stay with their sibling and to have that continuity. If you're only looking for like one kid, that might or may not be possible. Sometimes there's more than one child who's needing a home. So those are kind of all things that will affect the timeline. Also, if the birth parents are doing what they've been asked to do, but they're not totally there yet, they might get an extension from the court system. And also depending on the county that you're working in, like some counties, like Los Angeles County, for example, are really bogged down and they have so many kids in their system that the court system is so overwhelmed that they're constantly missing those deadlines. So there's federal mandates that are supposed to keep the foster care system like in check along these timelines, but a lot of times that just totally gets missed because of how overwhelmed the system is, especially in some of those bigger counties like Los Angeles. And this is all like California based. So if you're watching this from another country, I don't know how the system works in your country, but like this is a basic outline for how it works in the United States.